Welcome back, gents. Another week done and dusted, up to round 17, past the halfway mark. Plenty to talk about today. Molly, you're back from Hawaii, mate. Good trip.
Yeah, I am. It was nice to be in my mankini in the warmth. It was nice change from Sydney winter.
Uh,
Excellent. Excellent.
Very much so. It's been freezing here, so it was a good time to get out.
Yeah, it still is.
Still is. You're not wrong. Dicko, mate. Queenslanders won all in the series.
How
Happy
good was
day.
it? Did you see it, Molly? Did you catch it in
Of
Hawaii?
course, yeah. Got
Yeah,
up at
okay.
2 in the morning and watched it and rated all the players. It never stops.
Yeah, nice. No, it was good. It was and let's just say it was as a Queensland fan, very good game, but an interesting game. And
Yeah, I
I'm
still
sure
have
we'll
a few
dive a little
problems
deeper.
with Mr. Klein and the 9-0 penalties at one stage, but let's not go there.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's go there, Molly. Come on.
Let's talk about Cleary. He's under a bit of an injury cloud. I'm not sure. The teams haven't been named yet. We're recording midday Tuesday, so team lists haven't come out. Uh, if he's not named for game 3, what are the options available here?
Yeah, it's a bit of a worry. I actually saw Gus last night came up with a fair point. He said I would put Adam Reynolds in a heartbeat, and he's an experienced campaigner, and apart from anything else, he brings goal kicking, which has been New South Wales' Achilles heel. He's a cool head. He'll get him around the park. Probably not everyone's first choice, but wise man, Gus, and makes sense to me.
I think if he's not named to play for the Panthers this weekend, I almost think that's almost ruled out of Origin 3. Would you
Well,
would you not
surely
think?
Laurie Daly would want to see him play a game.
Well, I would think you'd have to train. He'd have to be able to train during the camp. I don't think you're going into a decider and your halfback sits out every session until the captain's run. I would have thought that's not great preparation, personally. I know you said Moley Adam Reynolds. As a Broncos fan, I hope you don't pick him if Cleary's out. What about Luai to 7 and Burton comes in at 6?
Yeah, it's been strange the way they've handled Burton, haven't they? Seems to be the perennial 18th man. You would have thought he would have come in last game, but it didn't happen. They brought Luai straight in. So yeah, I think there's some strange things going on with New South Wales. I said before game 2, I didn't think they picked their best team. I think the time's come where if they don't pick their best team again, they're going to get beaten in Sydney the way things went the other night, particularly if Mr. Klein keeps his eye more on them than Queensland, shall we say.
Yeah, well, it's almost gone reverse roles because you guys pretty much had a plethora of options up your sleeve, and now all of a sudden it's sort of clutching at straws. Hamoli Olakawatu's now injured his shoulder. Hudson Young's got the osteitis pubis issue. I wouldn't say Max King and Stefano are setting the world on fire.
I'd drop both of them in a heartbeat. I just
is it Terrell Maton?
And having said that, again, I said that before game 2. I don't know what Stefano's done to get in other than being one of Craig Bellamy's men. And Max King, lovely fella, but, he doesn't strike fear into you, does he? The way Kalomatangi does, the way Terrell May does. And I think they're the two you got to look at to bring in.
Well, I think it's funny you should say that because if you look at the way the squad's been selected especially the New South Wales squad, the last game, and if you were dropping King and Utai Kamanu, as you said, Molly, you're probably looking at, and as much as we've sort of advocated on here to get Terrell May in because you can't not pick him, we don't think, you'd have to think that by the squad they selected, Kaloa Matangi and Lindsay Smith comes in. I mean, he was in the squad. Lindsay Smith was in the squad to play game 2 and almost play. He would have played if Payne Haas didn't pass that last minute fitness test. So you know what I mean? Like
injury cloud too.
What's that?
Payne Haas is under injury cloud as well.
Well, he did play on the weekend and was elite, but you know what I mean? Like if I can't see them even having Terrell May in the conversation.
No, well, he's clearly off. There's something that's happened there. The fact the Roosters let him go despite I thought he had a great season for him last year. I thought he was the best bench player in the comp. And you want guys like him from the bench who are going to come on and add impetus, and wouldn't he have been good for the Blues the other night when they were down and out? But you're right. He won't get picked, but I'm still going to pick him in my team.
I want to just move from New South Wales to Queensland just very quickly. Last week I was very critical of Billy Slater and his selections and the way he coached. I reckon it was a dead set masterstroke in game 2. Coaching, selections, all the selections that he made, I think paid off. I mean, it was, we spoke about it. It was a huge call to drop your captain.
Yeah,
and
it was the call that won the game.
It was the call that won the game. You're right, Molly. Yeah. Like, the one thing that Tommy did and will do is he'll give you, I'm not saying Cherry Evans didn't, but he will give you effort play on effort play, and he will move up with the ball carrier. He'll offer support. Cherry Evans got to the point where he was dishing it off, moving ready for the next play. Did and won't die on a play. And he's a run first, pass second, and I think as it showed, to beat New South Wales, you've got to throw the footy around. You've got to move their forwards laterally, and you've got to offer a running game. Otherwise, they'll just swallow you up. So I thought it was even the call to drop Carrigan, well, not to drop, but put Carrigan back onto the bench, start with Liero. I thought that worked well. Queensland lost nothing at the sort of 20, 25-minute mark when the changes came and the bench forwards
came on. Well, they really gained
on.
something, didn't they?
Carrigan
is such a dynamic player. And like I was saying with Terrell May, that's the sort of bloke you want coming off the bench. And that's why Queensland are a big chance, because they've got it coming off the bench, whereas the Blues don't, particularly if they overlook Big Keon from South Sydney again, which they may well do.
They can't overlook him, surely. I mean, he's been almost the second best front rower in the last sort of 6 weeks behind Payne Haas. You know what I mean?
Well, we've had 2 Origins and they've overlooked him, so they might make it 3 strikes and you're out.
He was in the squad for the last one, so we'll see what happens.
He's close. What about Queensland in terms of changes? Do we foresee any there if everyone's sort of fully fit?
No, I think when you win an Origin, you stick with it, and they did well. It was a game no one thought they'd win. And, when they got that big lead up, sure, they almost let it go in the end, but they came up with the effort plays they needed to, and they go into this final game with all the momentum.
There's been a bit of chat up here about Reece Walsh, and maybe New South Wales wouldn't want to see him in the team as opposed to Kalen Ponga. I personally would keep Kalen. I thought he was, again, better in game 2 than what he was in game 1. And I thought on the weekend he was really good for Newcastle. So I personally would keep him. I think Reece is playing on one leg, personally, for the Broncos. Like, you can get away with...
He's not fit. And I think if Reece Walsh was fit, I think he'd be a big chance. But he is playing on one leg. And the funny thing is he's killing them on one leg. So you can imagine how good he'd be on 2 legs. But you don't make a bloke injured in.
No, well, just look at Cleary, mate. Clearly hampered by an injury in Origin 2, and it took away, I would say, from his effectiveness, well down on his game 2 performance from game 1 because of that groin injury. So you would be silly to pick a player who's clearly carrying an injury, I think, into a decider.
Yeah, well, Dearden won that battle, didn't he? And that won the game.
Yep, correct.
The part that worries me is that Queensland were at their best and New South Wales are at 60% and still nearly won.
Yeah, I wouldn't read too much into that second half. It was Queensland stopped trying to play footy, mate, to be honest. I wasn't concerned about that. I think if we went out there with the mindset of still trying to score instead of trying to protect, we would have won comfortably.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see what game 3 does. In New South Wales, scary times.
Oh, this is what you play for, mate. If they can't get excited, they're kidding themselves.
Oh, the side is what everyone wanted. We did get a bit of a leg up, obviously, with the penalty count too. So I don't know if it'll be the same. I can't believe Klein's been named for game 3.
No, and one thing I can tell you guys, and I've been doing this a long time, the one thing I can guarantee is that the Blues will win the penalty count. they cop such a pasting, the NRL, and I thought rightly so. And Klein, like when it gets to 9-0, yeah, there were a couple of there that were dead set penalties, but the Telegraph and a couple of other people have shown pictures of clear breaches by Queensland that he just overlooked. And when it's 9-0, he's only looking at one team, and that's going to change. And the Blues will have wanted him out. Clearly, he's not out. I would have got rid of him, because when one team's that unhappy with a ref, and it's not like he blitzed him, is it? He's been struggling all year, yet he gets all the big games. So it really annoys me. And just the chatter, the feedback from the fans, particularly of obviously the New South Wales fans, but also week to week, they just don't like him. They see all the errors he makes, and how he gets the best games, the Origins, the grand finals, I just can't understand.
Have they come out and said like the criteria as to why they picked
Yeah,
him?
I heard yesterday on the radio on SEN that he is well in front in a lot of the KPI indicators from any other referee in the comp.
Well, that's a sad indictment on the other half dozen referees, isn't it? If they're well behind him, we've got a problem.
Not wrong. Guys, talking of the Broncos previously, Selwyn Cobbo, contract saga at the moment. There's a few rumors being floated around. 1 minute, Cowboys are interested and he might head up there. Now we're hearing the Dragons.
Roosters,
later.
don't rule them out.
Yeah, Roosters. Are we trying to get a deal done here before June 30? Is that the vibe we're getting?
Well, he's not getting a run in the Broncos, is he? So, it wouldn't surprise me if someone has a go. And the Broncos may well let him go, because he's not doing anything for them. I think they think his attitude's not what it should be. To me, I think he's just one of those lackadaisical, laid-back characters. He's not going to go out there and rip and tear, but he's got so much natural ability that, another club would love to get him, particularly a club that's struggling for depth and players who can turn matches.
I think you can rule out the fact the June 30 thing. I really feel like that. I don't think it's in Brisbane's best interest for him to be released early, in terms of why would you release him to the Roosters or, the Dolphins or, whoever, because they're they could be playing them in the finals. So why would you release him? You know what I mean? You've obligated to pay him until the end of the season. You may as well keep him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's a long season.
You're not going to get anything in return either. So,
Yeah, and if someone gets hurt, they suddenly need him and he's gone, they're going to look very silly.
Well, unfortunately, at the moment, Hayes Perham was the backup fullback to Reece Walsh, did his ACL in the preseason. Selwyn's really the only backup fullback to Walsh if he gets injured. So there's zero chance of him leaving before June 30. I spoke to Dizz just before we jumped on, Molly, and I don't think there's any chance of him going to Sydney personally. You might have more information than me, but I just don't think he can be that far away from his family. And it's all well and good to sit there in the papers and say you can and whatnot, but when push comes to shove, to be honest, he struggles being in Brisbane that far away from Sherbrooke. No, seriously, he does. Yeah. He's back there every chance he gets. So I wouldn't be surprised if he stays at one of the Queensland clubs. Which club that is, I got no idea. And even if he goes to a Sydney club or a Queensland club, Dizz and I were chatting about it before, he's not going to play fullback where he wants to play. Like, they've all got genuine fullbacks. So where I think he's at a bit of a crossroads personally, because he's got to work out whether he wants to be a really full-time NRL player that is gonna be able to deal with the grind of an NRL season, or he just wants to be a bit part player who just goes out there, has a bit of fun, does his job and whatnot. Because I don't think we're all denying the fact that Selwyn could be one of the great players in the comp. Like, he's, at his best,
he's proven it already.
Yeah, at his best, he's worth in that, 700 to sort of $1 million range. But what he's producing at the moment, coupled with some off-field stuff, the Broncos have every right to offer him a contract that they feel in regards to his output, which is what they've done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's one of those situations where he needs a change and they need a change. So, it's sort of win-win. He's eaten up a lot of their salary cap and giving no return, and maybe a change of club, maybe a Wayne Bennett style guy. And I'm not suggesting he's going to go to South, but, a new voice, someone who can kiss and cuddle him a bit more than
That's
Madge
right.
would, is what he needs.
I don't disagree with that, Molly. And I also think, too, that I don't think the manager has helped Selwyn's case in terms earlier this season. The $1 million mark was thrown out. The manager has said multiple clubs have come willing to offer in excess of that $1 million range. And I just don't know whether Selwyn is that type of player that can deal with that hanging over his head at the moment. He's just very young, very raw, So I would have thought the manager could have handled it a little bit differently, which is why he finds himself in this situation in terms of. I think it's a big risk for a Sydney club to take Selwyn Cobbo in terms of just what you're going to get off the footy field rather than what you're going to get on the footy field. And it'll be interesting. And I'm kind of agree with you, Molly, in terms of I think there needs to be a clear break between him and Brisbane. It's just not happening. It's not working. But they're very reluctant to let go of an academy player, which is what Selwyn has been. He's been in their system, since he was like 13 or 14. So they'll be very reluctant to get rid of him, But it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Soon find out. Manly saga. We spoke about it a little bit last week with the 7-minute interviews, but I got some pretty good mail that a lot of the players, a lot of the senior players are right off Seabold, like right off Seabold. Some of which are the nicest players in the game, in the Gerbos and the Burbos and the Turbos of this world. In sorry, what was that?
No, you go. You're right.
In the interview with Seabold and Turbo, he was completely blindsided, and it was the first he'd heard directly from the coach that he was going to play centre. There wasn't even a chat about it or a consideration. Obviously, murmurs in the media and whatnot, but he actually mentioned he was quite surprised and shocked and disappointed originally by getting moved to centre. And he had no idea it was coming. And it looked like no discussion whatever was made. And it wasn't a, hey, Tom, this is what I'm thinking. What's your thoughts? It was, you're going to be playing centre. Done. That's it. What's everyone's thoughts around this?
Yeah, you're in Sydney, Molly, you and Diz. So what are you sort of? I sort of am a bit far away from this in Brisbane. What do you think about this?
Well, I'm not only in Sydney, I'm in the heart of Manly territory. I can tell you the other big elephant in the room all year has been Daly Cherry Evans. The way that was handled at the start of the year was just abysmal. And the players aren't all that happy with him either because they know he's on the move. And when your captain is telling you to do things, you're thinking, well, it's all very well and good for you to tell us to do stuff. You're not even going to be here next year. And it's really been a poor season from Manly as a result of that, since that. And again, they were blindsided, the players, and we all were. This all happened last December, and somehow it didn't leak out, which is very unusual for a Sydney club, for something like this not to leak to the media till basically the start of the comp. So it probably would have been better if it had come out in December and everyone had a chance to digest it. But, I think we were in round 1 or 2 when it all exploded and Manly haven't recovered.
Yeah.
Look, I agree that no player is bigger than the club, right? But at the end of the day, there's certain players that are indispensable to a club at times. And in my opinion, and most people's opinions, DCE, Turbo, Gerbo are the 3 players who have offered their heart and soul to the club and arguably have been their best players week in, week out. Yeah, we know Turbo's had a few injuries. DCE's getting a little bit older. But just like what Broncos have done with Adam Reynolds, cuddled him, offered him a new contract. I mean, Adam Reynolds probably you know, and I've mentioned it directly on this podcast, has been guilty of not being able to win Broncos games in crucial moments, including the 2023 grand final and multiple games this year. Yet the Broncos know how indispensable he is currently right now to the club and have prioritised him over the likes of someone like Selwyn Cobbo. Anthony Seibold should be doing the exact same thing. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be playing centre because I agree with that move. But just the way that he's going about it would ruffle my feathers if I'm one of the players too.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the obligation for the coach is to pick the best team that he thinks. So realistically, he doesn't have to chat to any player.
No, he
about
doesn't.
whether.
But
So
what would you do? Would you just call someone into a room for a 7-minute interview and go, "Hey, Turbo, look, we've got 7 minutes on the clock, mate. You're going to be moving to centre."
I'd probably go
That's
about it
pretty
a
much
little.
how it went.
I'd probably go a little differently. I'd probably chat to him about my thoughts on the thing, on where I think the team should move. But I still don't think he's obligated to have a discussion about him. He's the coach. At the end of the line, the coach's line's on the job. The job is on the line, right? Because I mean, clearly they're not getting results. The coach is going to be the one can, not the player. As Molly said many times, you can't turn over 30 players. You can turn over a coach. You know what I mean? It can't just be that. There's got to be other things. Molly keeps saying it. We all keep saying it. I think the DCE issue is at the crux of this whole problem. At Manly.
Definitely.
I cannot, for the life of me, understand how a deal or an announcement has not come out from either the player or where the hell he's playing. If he hasn't decided, well, then he hasn't decided. But if he
Is
has,
that a reflection on the type of players and how they've handled it, or on DCE? Because if I'm a player at that club, like they've signed Jamal Fogarty, right? Now he's no DCE, but he's definitely a player that will bring stability, organisation, good kicking game, like pretty good replacement, right? Who's locked in for a number of years. So it's got to be the unrest of DCE amongst the current playing group right now, knowing that he's going.
So where
Well,
is
guys,
DCE going somewhere, Molly, or what?
Yeah, I can tell you guys, it's the worst kept secret in Sydney. He's done at the Roosters. He's agreed whether he's signed. Now maybe it's the Roosters saying, we don't want to upset the apple cart and announce this when we're battling for a final spot. But he'll be there next year. I can promise you that.
But I just don't understand why that if you're telling us that and you say it's the worst kept secret, why not just announce it? Why not just have it out there?
Well, because I don't know. Like I said, I
This
think they
DCE's
just
weird.
want to, they're battling for a finals berth. They've got two young halves, and if they find out that this guy's coming to the club, they probably suspect he is, but it's not official yet. So and they're playing the house down, Sandon Smith and Hugo Savala. They're doing the job. And who would have thought that at the
You still got Sam
this
Walker
time
to come
12
back.
months ago? Yeah, and Sam Walker's coming back.
I
How
just don't
Sam
know what
Walker feels
I
about
don't
all this, I don't
understand the
know.
ploy. I just really don't get it. From the
It's clearly it's the situation is clearly lassoing Manly and where they want to go and where they're going to go in this season. I think you can almost put a line through them, to be honest with you, because I mean I like the move of Travojevic to centre and Hopewade to fullback. I really do like it, but there's also a flow-on effect. I was listening to the radio. Ruben Garrick wants to play centre. He's now been pushed out to the wing.
Jason Saab near New South Wales Cup.
That's right, exactly. Tom Travojevic wants to play fullback. Now he's in the centres.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Like, came out like a month ago when Croker was coming back from injury, going, "Yeah, no, we're just working his fitness up to get back. He's our number one hooker." He's been shafted now after this 7-minute speed dating app from Debo. Like seriously, he has and Jazz Tavanga, whose natural position isn't lock, is the new. Isn't hooker, is now the hooker.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't know, mate. Like, it's bizarre situation. When as Molly's alluded to before, when the CEO or the chairman of the board comes out and says the coach is safe in publicly, and especially when he says the coach is safe for the next 2 games or he's got 2 games or something, I think he's in all sorts of trouble personally.
Yeah,
I
it was a very wishy-washy. This coach is safe, isn't it? It was sort of safe for the moment.
Yeah,
you know what
that's it.
though? I think what Manly's intentions, like I think they're actually doing the right thing. Like the decisions they're making are the right decisions, but the way they're going about going, to the players or it getting leaked in the media is just turning into a basket case. Because I think yes, DCE has had his day at Man. Like I genuinely think he's had his day at Manly. Like you can see it right now. He's really struggling. He was struggling for Queensland, rightly dropped for Dearden. Turbo's been struggling for ages. Even Gerbo's been struggling for ages.
Yeah, great.
Croker's been injury prone. Like I'd be playing Jazz Chavanga over Croker as well. Like they're actually, and Lehigh is getting the opportunity that he deserves at fullback. Like the decisions they're making are the right decisions, and it says to me, or it smells to me that let's just get rid of all these old folk on a lot of money, unless they're happy to cop, pay cuts to hang around, and it's almost a rebuild at Manly.
Well,
Yeah. It's really you look at the Roosters last year, and they were in a similar situation where they had a lot of older players, and they got rid of them all, and everyone said, "Geez, this year's going to be a rebuilding year, and there's no way they'll make the 8." But all these young kids, the Robert Toyers, the Savalas, they've all stepped up. Sia Wong was going great till he got hurt, and they're in the battle. So
that's a credit to the organisation, though, Molly. You know what I mean? That's a well-run club. So
Yeah.
I think the next 2 weeks are critical. They've got 2 home games against the Tigers and the Rabbitohs will be without Latrell because he'll be in Origin camp.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe Keon as well. So yeah, it's now or never for the Seagulls. If they drop a game, to be honest, if they drop a game against the Tigers are 14th, and now they don't have Jerome Buller, who's out, or Jareem Buller, he's out now, injured. I think the whips are going to be cracking down there on the northern beaches for sure.
Guys, I'm going to jump the gun with a tipping, but on that game, I got told today, and I put it on my Facebook and Twitter, the Tigers have not won a Friday night game in over 1,000 days.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 1,000 years then. I was like,
well, it may as well be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So when we do our tips, I know who I'm be going.
Just brilliant. Love it.
If you're on the fence, you're off it now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Talking about injuries, Jareem Buller's obviously out. Gives Latu Fainu a massive chance. I think he's touted to partner Jerome anyway. Luai in the halves for the future. That's the pairing they've gone with, obviously, with Galvin gone. Fletcher Sharp, poor bugger. Ruptured spleen, was it?
Yeah, lacerated kidney, I think, and a ruptured spleen, wasn't it?
Both.
Yeah,
that's like a car
ending.
crash.
That's more than likely. That's an undetermined when you come back, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. And the Knights, credit to them, they've flown his dad and his girlfriend over, as well as their chief of medical. So that shows it's not just a scratch.
Yeah, I read today that it wasn't the actual tackle; it was he fell on his own elbow.
Yeah,
on his elbow, was it?
Yeah.
Right.
So it just goes to show, like, for anyone that doesn't know rugby league or whatnot, just the brutality of some of the stuff that goes on in the game. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And anyone who says these guys are not tough, I mean, for that to happen in such an innocuous way, I mean, these guys are real warriors. And
it looked like a HIA at the time, like that's what they called, but he clearly was in some, major discomfort.
Well, it's considered a medical emergency and life-threatening. So that sort of tells the story right there in terms of that. So, we just hope, he gets back to playing footy whenever he's good and ready and he gets the care that he needs. But he's in Perth I believe now for a little while.
Yeah, they won't let him out of the hospital.
Yeah. So, he's only young, so fingers crossed he gets better and then he gets back on the field.
I'll tell you what it does do, Molly, for you and I. It brings in our beloved Jackson Hastings, I think, potentially long term. And the Knights are on fire, just quietly. So Keen to
Has he
see
been
who
picked
you
this
guys are
week
going.
though?
Well, we're not sure yet, Molly. We find out in a few hours.
Yeah, I'm hearing he's going to miss out again. I'm hearing
Who, Hastings?
yeah, I'm hearing they're going to put someone else in there, but maybe he'll change his mind. O'Brien, he switches halves like we change underwear. So
That's very true.
Just on injury, and I'm just reading this now on socials. Just came through. Scans have confirmed Jack Bostock has suffered an ACL, so he will miss the remainder
yeah,
of the
he's
season.
gone, and
Yeah.
that's a real pity because he'd been absolutely killing it, and getting back to Fletcher Sharp. I mean, he was one of the form 5/8s of the comp in a team that couldn't attack. So, it's just really bad luck for these two guys.
Yep. Yeah. Horrible news, especially for the Dolphins. He's doing so much good work for the Dolphins, and really, he was sort of at the forefront of their resurgence this season, isn't he, Bostock?
Well, people were talking about him as an Origin player in the future, and I can certainly see that. If he recovers from this injury, I wouldn't be surprised if he was right in contention next season.
Yeah. So I think it's a massive blow for the Dolphins, and this was my concern with the Dolphins. If they suffered a few long-term injuries, I didn't think they could hold on to their position on the ladder because I don't think they run real deep in their top 30.
No, and it's happened to them the last two seasons. They've been well positioned and then
Yep.
fallen away at the end.
Yep.
Their end of seasons has been abysmal, but then this year they lost their first four and went on a run. So maybe the new coach Christian Wolf, he certainly seems to know his stuff. And the footy they're playing, they're probably the most watchable team in the league, aren't they? They just throw it around. Nicarima, Katoa, the hammer. I mean, he's the best player in the game at the moment as far as breaking lines open.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. No, they're definitely a team to watch for sure. I don't think you'd want to play them in a final. I really don't.
Mind you, the Knights did just beat them.
Yeah, I know, but I still don't think you'd want to play the Dolphins in a final.
No, definitely not. They're not at Suncorp either.
Well, not anywhere. They just played really tough. They're like South. I wouldn't want to play South in a final.
They still don't travel real well, though, do they?
They're only in there.
They've improved this year, though. They've learnt to win in Sydney, which is not easy.
Yeah,
that is true. Now, speaking of teams in form, obviously the top four's sort of getting away a little bit. 6 points adrift it is from fourth to fifth. Broncos, Roosters, Panthers, and Sharks round out the top 8 now. Who would have thought?
What I will say about that is, just before you go on, is I was really surprised when I saw 6 points between fourth and fifth. I didn't actually feel like it was that far away between the top 4 and the bottom sort of what.
Yeah, it took me by surprise too. We're all saying how congested it is, but it's really only congested from fifth down. And at this stage, I had a good look at the ladder the other day. We can probably rule the Titans out. We can probably say they're the spoon favourites. But, the second last team is Parramatta, and they're well and truly capable of making the 8. I think they're, 3 points out?
Well, Rabbitohs are actually second last Molly on points differential. So,
okay.
But I could see the Rabbitohs in the 8.
Well, yeah, it's 4 points from fifth to second last.
Yeah. Which is what you want. You want all these teams still in the race. So it's
Broncos are on 18.
Well, if you look at it now, this is where this ladder gives you a false sense of. And this is an issue that I was listening to it on radio the other day. The Raiders have had 12 wins, more wins than anyone in the comp, yet they're second.
Yeah.
And then you look at the Rabbitohs. The Rabbitohs are second last. They've got 2 buys in hand. So realistically, they're on 18 points. So they're up in the 8. Teams of like the Sharks, again, 2 buys in hand. They move up. Raiders, 2 buys in hand. They're on 30 points already. I think, what's the cutoff? 28 to 30 gets you in the 8 these days?
Yeah, but I think it'll change this year because of the makeup of the ladder. We could have record lows teams making the 8. We could have teams losing more games than they've won and making the 8.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, that's right. Penrith are 6 wins and 7 losses, and they're in 8th. You're right, Molly. So, I really think this, until these buys are evened up a little bit, I really think this picture paints a very interesting story because you can't sort of get a read on it. I don't like the fact the buys points are given for buys. I think it's silly, personally.
Yeah. It's like it's all going to even itself out in the end, but it's more just where people are sitting throughout the year and what impact that has.
Well, you don't get a true reflection, right? And you know, this game 3 is really interesting because, you know, the Broncos don't have a bye, for instance, during this next Origin 10-day period, so they will play. You know, some of the other teams, Melbourne will play through this Origin period because they've already had their buys. Same with the Bulldogs.
And you're 100%
You know?
right, Dicko. Like that top 4 currently looks Bulldogs, Raiders, Storm, Warriors. But if you get rid of the buys, it actually goes Raiders, Bulldogs, Warriors, Storm, all in different order.
That's exactly right, mate.
Completely
Yeah.
different order.
So, you know, it's just very. I still think there's a clear top. Oh, to be honest, I reckon there's a clear top 2. I didn't like the way Melbourne played on the weekend, and the Warriors. I just can't trust the Warriors.
I tell you what's even funnier: the Broncos, who are sitting in 5th, if there wasn't any buys, the Dolphins would actually be in 5th.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's some massive games coming up. You know, I don't know. What do you think, Molly, in terms of the sort of makeup of the 4 and the 8 at the moment? Who do we see from outside the current 8 coming up?
Tell me who's 9th, 10th, and 11th.
You got the Dolphins, Manly, Dragons, Cowboys, Knights, Tigers, Eels, Rabbits, Titans.
Yeah. I can't see the Dragons making it. I can't see the Eels making it. Dolphins a chance. Yeah,
Rabbits.
Yeah, for sure. They've got a bit of ground to make up, but
who can win though? Who can actually win the comp? Like that's the big like. It's all well and good making the 8, but who can genuinely, in this competition, win the comp from what the ladder looks like right now?
Well, I think the
top 4,
the top 2 can definitely win it. The Bulldogs and the Raiders. You know, I can't see the Roosters winning it. I can't see the Sharks winning it. Of the other teams, Cowboys have shot themselves in the foot.
There's a few teams you wouldn't want to play anywhere in the finals. Like, you know, if I just look at this and I'm a top 4 team, I wouldn't want to see the Panthers. I wouldn't want to see the Broncos. And I probably wouldn't want to see the Roosters or the Rabbitohs in any finals game. And I know Rabbitohs, that's weird because they're currently second last. I wouldn't want to see any of those teams. If one team is going to win the comp from outside the top 4, which has never been done in the NRL, right? Just doesn't happen. It is the Panthers.
Yep, could be.
It is the Panthers. If they get there, you would not want to see them in any finals game.
Yeah, they got to be fit. They got to get Cleary over his problems. Yeah, but they're a definite possibility.
And teams like the Warriors, if the Warriors don't finish in the top 4, I think you can rule them out because I really feel like finish in the top 4, those 2 home finals are a massive advantage for them, more than sort of anyone.
Yeah.
The Raiders have probably got the game style to really threaten every team. But this is the thing, like teams have beaten, the Broncos have flogged the Bulldogs. You know, just lost to the Warriors, just lost to the Raiders. You know, beat the Sharks. You know, beat the Roosters, lost to the Roosters.
To finish the season, geez, it looks nice.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't think we can really... I don't think there's a form guide necessarily at the moment. I mean, if I was to rank the best team in the comp, I think it's the Raiders. They're the most consistent. But in terms of a form guide, I still think anyone can beat anyone on the day.
Well, I want to post this on our socials. I'm going to put everyone on the spot. Dicko, you think the Raiders are the team to beat right now? Is that your team to win the comp?
If I'm picking a team that are on form, the Raiders. It's the Raiders.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I like about the Raiders, guys. We've been talking about these clubs, the problems with the Broncos, the problems with Manly. Canberra are a happy team. You can just see it.
Play for the coach.
What Ricky's selling, and Ricky's got plenty of shit over the years, but he's pulled all the right reins this year. I mean, look at playing his son. You compare that to the Kyle Flanagan situation where, you know, everyone's questioning it. Ricky puts his son in for one game. The kid scores a try on debut. And Ricky was crying at the end. And I think all the players were just so happy. You know, they want to send Papali'i out on a high. Joe Tarpany is in his first year as captain. He'll probably be captain of the year. He's just killing it. So everything's gone right. From the Fogarty thing was a bit of a hiccup, but Ricky's sort of, I think, galvanising him, saying, these bloody big Sydney clubs, they keep pinching our players, but we'll show them. He's a smart operator, Ricky. He knows how to get the most out of his players, and we're seeing it.
Well, look at that situation. If you compare Canberra and the Fogarty situation, he's done now. The deal's done. They know he's leaving. They know he's going to Manly. It's been announced. And then compare that to the Manly situation with DCE. Right? Canberra haven't missed a beat. Manly couldn't get out of the way of their own shadow. So you know what I mean? It's very different ways in going about it. But I really think two distinct differences in the way, the end game is Canberra haven't missed a beat. Manly, as I said, can't get out of the way of their own shadow at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's a credit to, as you said, Ricky and Canberra, the organisation, all buying into what Ricky wants to do. And I think they're the team to beat. They've won from behind. They've won from in front. They haven't played well. They've won in that situation. I wouldn't want
Who
to
are
be
they
playing
playing in the final, Dicko?
in the grand final.
Yeah.
The Broncos? No.
They might. They might.
No, I don't know, mate. To be honest, I still think it's the toss of the coin. I just said anyone can beat anyone. Anyone can literally beat anyone in this comp.
For the first 6 rounds, I think we were all saying the Storm. I was prepared to put money on them to win the comp, but they've gone backwards and injuries haven't helped.
Yeah, I agree. They're not lighting it up.
But of course, Origin hurts them more than most clubs, with Munster and these guys all missing. Big Nelson hasn't shown much. He's been battling injury. Harry Grant's been hot and gold, but geez, he was hot the other night and hot again against South. So he seems to have turned the corner. And he's the key man, isn't he? Like, if he fires, they all fire.
The Storm during Origin have got the Cowboys. Seriously. Hasn't the NRL looked after them, for God's sake?
Yeah.
That's Saturday night footy, watching a reserve grade Cowboys versus a reserve grade Storm. Geez, that's riveting. Anyway.
Yeah. And that shapes as one of the games of the year if they're all in there.
Yeah, correct.
You just wonder who does this draw. And you guys brought up such a good point the other week that the Panthers had to travel to Auckland after Origin. And the fact they won was just a miracle, because they did it without all their stars. That was one of the wins of the year. And I think it'll be a turning point for the Panthers. We all say you don't want to play them in the finals. And after that, I can see why. To win in Auckland without your 5 superstars was one of the great performances of the year.
Yep.
Well, let's lead straight into the game, shall we?
You're kidding.
Panthers and the Dogs, Thursday night footy.
What I will say, Dizz, is if you look at this round, there is some really high quality games and massive ramifications on top 8, on Wooden Spoon, and on coaching futures.
And on Origin.
And on Origin, you're right, Molly.
Yeah, let's briefly touch on coaching futures. Obviously, we spoke about Seabold, but Des Hasler and Todd Payton.
Mate, look at Sunday Arvo at 4 p.m. Titans versus Cowboys.
That's the game. That is the coaching job security.
I reckon it's a coach off. Whoever loses that is Gonski.
Gone. Yeah.
They should just put the 2 coaches in a cage, and whoever emerges survives.
I tell you what, that would be a good battle as well, because they're both pretty tough buggers.
What do you think, Molly? Do you think it's a coach off? Do you think it's whoever loses could be Gonski?
I think with the contracts these blokes are on, the big money they're on, and they've both been extended fairly recently. I don't think anyone's going to get sacked at this stage. I reckon we'll survive with all 17 coaches at the end of the season.
Because the payout figures.
There'll certainly be some changes then.
Well, the Cowboys, I know we'll just start on this game, just because we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But the Cowboys have been a joke since they made the decision to move Jackson Purdue from centre to 5'8".
Yep.
Now, that to me is a decision you make in the preseason, not a decision you make in round 12.
And it's a decision made by Todd Payton, not injury or...
And Jackson Purdue might be your future number 6, and that's okay, but the kid needs to learn how to play NRL weekly and get his head around that before you then thrust him into a major playmaking role.
Well, there was a stat put up, Clifford versus Purdue, and it's quite scary. in favour of Clifford positively.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't bode well for Jackson. And it's not a clip on Jackson. It's a...
No, he should be playing centre, mate.
Yeah.
I had him around Origin at centre.
Well, guys, on what you've said, getting back to Fletcher Sharp, I wrote in about December that he was going to be the 5'8" for the Knights, and people bagged the shit out of me and said, you're crazy. And I thought it was a crazy move, but I got it straight from an insider. And because he played the whole preseason there, he just killed it. And you contrast that to switching Jackson Purdue at this stage of the year. It's a very good point you made, Dicko.
Yeah, it's a preseason move. Like, I got no doubt the kid's going to play 5'8". Like, he's a 5'8" junior. But you've got to learn, how to be a professional rugby league player. And out in the centres where he can use his speed. And wasn't he lighting it up there for 3 weeks where he was using his speed and the Cowboys were rolling?
Well, the silliest part is they've got Tom Duffy there, who they started with at the start of the season, that did all the preseason. And they've shafted the 2 players that work with Dearden, Duffy and Clifford, to put in. But
it just seems to me that Toddy Payton is very stubborn in his selections and he won't go back on it. So I think there's real dramas there.
He's made a mistake, that's for sure.
I think there's real dramas there at the Cowboys. Yeah, it could cost him his job, mate. And, that might be the way he goes. This is, if it cost me my job, it cost me my job.
Who's going to win the coach off?
Who's going to win the coach off? Oh, God. Where is it?
There's no Jaden Campbell, by the way.
Cowboys. That's how highly I rate Campbell. I think he's a superstar. And without him, they struggle.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the Cowboys as well in the Gold Coast or at the Gold Coast. Yeah, I'll go the Cowboys.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, I love it.
I didn't even know who asked that question. Look, you know what? Just to create a little bit of animosity amongst the group, let's go with the Titans. Let's lock in the Titans. Seriously, they're both a joke. Like, they're both defensively a joke. The Titans came out last week and not against the Eels, sorry, like the week before against Manly, and kept them to 8. And yeah, Manly's had their issues. But then they lost to Parramatta, who didn't have Brown and Moses, who were pretty much at full strength. Well, how does that happen?
Yeah, mate, I've got nothing for you. I've got absolutely nothing for you.
I think there'll be plenty of points. That's the bottom line.
34-32 to the Titans, you reckon? Something like that.
Point, Molly.
Oh, let's go to the match of the round, Thursday night. Panthers versus Bulldogs. Huge game at Penrith's home ground, Combank. This should just be moved to a core, in my opinion. just
get over it, mate. We're dead set. We're 16 weeks into the comp. Get over it about Penrith's home ground.
I tell you what, obviously I've got my bias hat on right now, but if Penrith somehow make a prelim on the back of this season with everything that's going on at the start of the year, literally 4 weeks ago we're last. 4 weeks ago. Dead last, right? You mentioned how close the comp is, but now it's 1 point from 5th. We've also got a bye next week, followed by 2 relatively easy games in the Eels and the Rabbitohs. You'd think they'd win both. If Penrith win this week, are they a chance of making the top 4?
Oh, well, yeah, it provided results, of course. But I, as I just said before, there's some statement games here. Penrith will want to win this to really sort of solidify themselves as, you know what, we're still here. We're still genuine about winning the comp. But I think this is the scalp. I still personally don't take the Bulldogs seriously this season. All right, I'm sitting every week waiting for them to fall off the perch. Right, I think they're probably in next year really gonna fight it out for the comp.
Well, there's a couple of things that's going to happen this week. It's going to be, is Cleary playing, yes or no? And where does Galvin fit in? And what's the ramifications of that?
Yeah, so
the first week we see that.
So I think Serraldo circled this game. I really do. And if he knocks off the reigning premiers, then the Bulldogs can start. You know what? Everyone now needs to take it seriously, even though we're first. But we're right up there. We're ready. We've now beaten the reigning premiers. We're going to really stick our chest out and start beating the drums because we can win the comp. But just at the moment, I'm waiting for him to fall down because I don't think some of the games they've played, I don't think they've been impressive enough to be considered to be a really big chance of winning the premiership.
So judging on a full strength Penrith and a full strength Bulldogs, who is going to win this game?
Moley.
Well, I was about to say it's a hard game to tip on Tuesday morning because, as far as I'm concerned, Cleary in, Penrith win, Cleary
Look,
out.
there's been no reports suggesting, and you'd think it would have come out by now, although Penrith are very good with the media and keeping things under wraps. Nowhere suggests that Cleary's not playing.
Well, yeah.
But we also know he's not 100%. So, yeah, I'll go Penrith, assuming he is playing.
The fact, now, again, you can read into this however you like, but the fact that everyone is talking about Adam Reynolds or Isaiah Katoa or Luke Metcalf to play Origin 3, all the journos have been saying that, tells me that this is a fairly significant injury, right? And one that they may just go, you know what, we're just going to sit him out because we feel like the back end is more important than this game. But in saying that, even if he plays, I still think the Bulldogs win.
Mm-hmm.
You just said the Bulldogs can't play.
No, I didn't. I said that he's had this circled, and I really
not
think
taking it seriously until this week.
No, you got to think about it. Kickout versus the Panthers. Stephen Crichton back up against the Panthers. You know, Salmon.
Yeah,
I you know what I mean. I just think he's circled this, and if they want to beat anyone, Serraldo versus Cleary. You know, with a really good team. I think it'll be close. I really do think it'll be close. It'll be a defense off. But yeah, I think the Bulldogs just.
I last week sort of took everyone by surprise, or certainly took me by surprise. Yeah, look, I think if I tip Bulldogs and Penrith win, it'll be a win-win. So I might go down that route, just to,
Reverse, yeah, I like it. I like it.
Not be too disappointed if I tip the Panthers and they lose.
Yeah, right. I like it.
I'll just let's leave it there. Molly locking in Penrith.
Yep.
Seagulls versus the Tigers. We just spoke about how important this game is for Manly. Equally, Tigers yet to see Latu Fainu in action, with more than likely Heath Mason moving to fullback with the Jareem Buller injury. Obviously, a new look back line with Turbo in centre, right centre, with Garrick at right wing, then Kohler and Tommy Talau on the left with Lehigh at fullback. Can the Seagulls beat the Tigers?
Yes, at 4 Pines Park, yes, they can.
Lock in the Seagulls? I agree.
I just think Buller's a huge loss. I really do. The fullback, you know, your fullback's a massive loss. And for that reason alone, I think Manly win.
Let's just hope Lehigh doesn't knock himself out again scoring a try.
And I also think they respond from all the scrutiny that they've had the last sort of 2 weeks. And so I think they get it done.
It's an opportunity for the players to go, you know what? We're here to play football, not worry about speculation and what's going on behind the scenes. Are we a tight-knit group or not? Because I tell you what, if the Tigers win this, oof.
Yeah, big trouble.
Good.
Big trouble.
Yeah, I can't see him winning without Buller. I agree. Your fullback's your key player, and I'd rate him as one of the elite fullbacks in the comp. I know he's still young and still got a way to go, but when he plays well, they're a danger, the Tigers, and I think they're really going to miss him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Knights versus Raiders. Now, rumour has it, just heard from Barry Toohey, that Jacob Saifidi's back as well. I don't know if that's going to make a massive difference or not to the outcome of this game, but I'll tell you what, every time we ride off a team, they come out and
play well.
Yeah, and more than often win the game.
I just don't think you can tip against the Raiders. I really just don't. I don't. I mean, what negative can you find about the Raiders to be able to tip the Knights?
And it will be Hastings, Cogger and Hastings.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, what negative can you find? Like, I can't I can't not tip the Raiders, and that's why I'm going to tip them because I can't find a way to not tip
The
them.
only thing that I'm a little bit funny on is the Hudson Young injury. I don't know what that means for Hudson. A similar injury to Munster, and I think it's getting played down a little bit more than what it is. And you noticed against the Tigers on the weekend, as soon as he went off the field, the Raiders lost their way a little bit.
Well, they should never have backed up. If you're fair dinkum about it, he should never have played.
Yeah.
There was no need for him to play. But
It
anyway,
is at McDonald Jones coming off two wins in a row the Knights.
you're not gonna talk me into it. The Raiders will win this.
Molly?
Yeah, throwing the
Off
Raiders,
the
and let's not forget their record of McDonald Jones isn't great. They tend to get booed there most weeks.
Look, I'm going to say lock in the Raiders, but it'll be a 1-12, and don't be surprised if the Knights get up. That's what I'm going to say.
All right, righto.
Broncos Warriors. Now this is going to be a cracker game at Suncorp.
I'm actually going to the game. Yep.
Geez, how many games do you blokes play at Suncorp? Seriously,
Mate, we can't help it. We play away games at Suncorp. Everyone wants to play there.
including Magic Round against Penrith. Now, I honestly can't see the Warriors winning this. Last week was a turning point. Last week was a turning point for me massively, and I think a turning point for the Warriors because if they were legit about their chances this year, they would have beaten Penrith and beaten them well.
So they've also got a few injured too, don't they? The Warriors. They're lost a
Mitch
few.
Barnett's a big loss. And James Fisher-Harris, I wrote a preview about him up against his old team. He didn't really aim up. I was quite surprised. And his stats were right down. So he's one that really needs to step up with Barnett out.
Yeah, well, Leota smashed him first tackle of the game.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and he won that battle, clearly.
So didn't the Warriors come out of that game with a couple of injuries? Were Tenny Zalesniak's out?
Yeah, Zalesniak's out for at least a month.
Near Corey, I think, got HIA'd. I think he puffed.
Yeah, he's got to be in
so
thumbs out.
And did I read that Metcalf is carrying something? Yeah, Metcalf. Okay, he's got a corky or something, does he?
Yeah,
he didn't look
so. Take all that in the consideration. I don't think they can win.
I think the Broncos win this by more than 20. I think.
Well, there is some strong
game.
Ben Hunt. He's 50-50 to play for Brisbane.
And
this
if
weekend.
he does play, the word is he's going to play hooker.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's 50-50. I really think you're going to see the best.
Start him at hooker, or would you put him on the bench?
No, hooker. You start him at hooker, but you'd probably only play him in his first game back 40 minutes. I reckon you'd only play him a half.
The thing about Ben Hunt, he's a tough kid. He plays with pain a lot. Some blokes can't play with pain. He's one who can. So I think he's in.
Yeah, every time I tip Brisbane, they lose. So
especially when we say they're going to win by 20.
This week's one of the hardest tipping rounds. The next 4 games are very, very difficult.
And the Warriors do play well at Suncorp. They're very well supported here in Brisbane. They are very well supported, the Warriors here in Brisbane. So, I mean, I can't not go for the Broncos, so I'll tip the Broncos. They're my team.
Okay, they're going to win by 20. Easy.
All right. I said I can't. They're my team, so I'm going to tip them.
Molly, 30 by 30.
Golden point.
Dragons versus Eels. Yeah, good luck with this one.
Oh, Jesus.
Is it going to be the Kyle Flanagan show down at Wynn Stadium? Probably not. But, oh, geez. Yeah.
Dylan Brown's out again, is he? Yep, Dylan Brown's out again.
Yeah, so did you know what? Dean Hawkins has been impressive.
No, Dragons.
Yeah, he was good last week.
Dragons will win this. So is Iongi. Iongi's going to be a star.
Yeah.
The fullback. And he's a Queenslander, which is even better. No, the Dragons for me at home.
I think that's another Penrith junior as well. Dragons. You reckon? Dragons?
Dragons for me at home, yep.
Dragons. Moly Dragons. Jeez, you were quick on the button there.
I don't like the Dragons halves without naming names. I'm going Eels.
Oh, sorry, Mike. Geez, another tough one. Poor Jack Bostock. We mentioned that. Do you think they'll just stick with the Avarillo on the wing situation? Is that which way you think they'll lean? I don't know if I like it.
Oh, this is the game where they've got to turn the stadium over in about an hour. because there's 2 games at Suncorp on the one day, 2 different teams.
Oh,
So
okay.
they've got to
Oh,
actually
yes, it is too.
they've got to kick us out after the Broncos game, and then they've got to turn the whole joint over to get them people in.
How's that? Why have they done that?
Well, I think it was again the Canadians that do the draw, mate. I think it was an oversight.
Unbelievable. Oh,
No, the Dolphins at home. I do think the Dolphins play really well at Suncorp. And I think some people have probably taken the opportunity to do a double header here and have bought tickets to both. So I reckon you'll definitely get 40 plus to the Broncos game, 1,000. And I reckon you'll get 40 plus again on Saturday night.
Dicko, you'll get 100 hiding in the toilets in between games.
Yeah.
yeah, you will. You will.
That's true. No, Dolphins just, but I think this could be really close. Really close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Molly?
Yeah, I think the Finns. I really like the Finns, and the Hammers. Just the form player of the comp.
Well, I thought the Finns were going to come out and wallop the Knights. I genuinely did. And
the Knights had a better team in. Let's not forget that. Best was back. They had a couple of others, but it was probably their best team of the year.
Well, I thought the Storm were going to wallop the Rabbitohs as well, but the Rabbitohs, tell you what, they were unlucky not to win that game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought that was going to be easy.
But they keep defying the odds. Look, again, Dolphins, but with no confidence. Don't be surprised if the Rabbits come and win this game.
Well, last Saturday, the 3 teams giving big starts all gave good accounts of themselves and won with the start. So, and as you say, South probably should have won. And I think the other 2 did win. So.
Well, I was cheering at halftime of the Broncos Sharks game. I changed my tip about a minute before kickoff to the Sharks, and I thought I was home and hosed. But
yeah, I think everyone did.
Leading into this next game, Storm versus the Sharks. The Sharks just keep. I'm going to say it again. Nico Hines is a dead set myth. He just goes missing when the going gets tough.
He goes well against the crap teams, doesn't he? But
he goes fantastic against the crap teams. But even in games like he played so well for the first 50 minutes of that game on the weekend.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Broncos get on a roll. And I don't know if he touched the ball for the rest of the game. Genuinely.
Yeah.
I think he ran it a few times and actually dropped it on the 2 times he ran it.
Yeah.
And at crucial moments in the game, he went away from kicking. I think Trindle actually had more kick meters than Nico Hines. Yeah, he really needs to get a new sports psychologist. Because he's just going MIA all the time. And leading into the point that I'm going to make here, I think the Storm, because the Sharks beat the Storm last time, and now they've gone on a 3-game skid, or might be a 4-game skid. I think the Storm win this quite comfortably at Amy Park. I think they'll be out to get them.
Again, ramifications here on the 8. Sharks lose this, they almost drop out of the 8. So
crazy.
No, I mean you can't not tip Melbourne at home. They're very good at home. They always have been. The Sharks have been a bit patchy the last few weeks. So yeah, I'll be tipping Melbourne.
I'll say that this could dead set be like a 40-6 to the Storm. I can just see it happening.
Well, from what I saw of Craig Bellamy in the box on the weekend, you can be guaranteed the Storm are going to be ready for this game.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, and let's not forget Harry Grant's back to form, Munster's back to form. I think Jerome Hughes is just a superstar. The 3 of them, they'll get them over the line on their own. And then throw in Pappenhausen with 4 tries and, you've got your 40 points.
Yep.
Yeah, and then obviously to round off the round, we've got the coach off, which we've already spoken about. So
it's actually a really good round of footy, to be honest.
It's going to be.
And you also add the element, as we said, Molly, Keon Kalamatangi, last chance to impress before Origin 3 selection. You've got Utai Kamanu as well, doesn't want to lose his spot. Max King up against the Penrith pack. So, some really interesting matchups.
Yeah, how's Hudson Young going to pull up from the game against the Knights?
I don't think Reece Robson's any certainty either. You know, you look at how Harry Grant outpointed him. I think Robson's a good, tough competitor, but he just doesn't run the ball.
Yeah, Happy Coruscant, you know, if he has a great game on the weekend against Manly, does he then, come into calculations?
Well, I'd put Appy in right now, I'll tell you, because he's the one bloke capable of matching Grant. And there've been questions about his defence. Well, he topped the tackle count last week. So, he can tackle Appy and he can run the ball. And that's what we're lacking at the moment in New South Wales from the hooking spot. And it showed very clearly in games 1 and 2. You know, they won game 1, but they weren't great. And game 2, it took them till Queensland got tired and stopped playing, as you mentioned, for them to come back.
Yep. I think it's going to be a great round of footy. One of the best rounds we've had this season.
Cracker round. Well done, gents. Good luck for the weekend. And then for everyone listening who hasn't jumped on your Gripstar socks, 30% discount, Nostra 30. Thanks again to the guys over there. All right, people, have an awesome weekend. Big games.
May the best teams win. Let's go.
Let's move
Sounds
up.
good.
Comp.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, guys.